This is the Jocko Underground Podcast. It's number 52. Sitting here with Echo Charles, EC in the house. I was out at Gettysburg. We're doing the Echelon Front battlefield, doing the battlefield walk. And I went on this little kind of like tangent. Not really a tangent, a riff maybe.
Sure.
You know, what do you see me do this kind of thing where I'm kind of like going off about something?
You digressed a little bit.
No, but it's not a digression. It's not a digression.
Wait, like what is there?
Digression's bad, right? Digression leads us nowhere. It's a positive.
Well, not necessarily. I think technically digression just means like you're going in one direction with a whatever, and then you went off in a different
indicates
direction.
We're not moving in a good direction, though. Like, oh, but I digress, then I have to get back to the subject.
Let's say
right?
the initial direction, but sure.
So I diverted my comments. And anyways, we were talking about terrain. You know, you're out there on the battlefield. You can see like high ground and low ground and how important it is and impactful it is. And then I kind of went on this explaining that people are terrain. Because there's some real similarities between people and terrain. Because if you're a good battlefield leader, you can look at the terrain and you can figure out how best to use it. And how use it to your advantage and how it's going to help you win the battle. You can't look at a hill on the map or on the ground and be like, hey, I don't really like the way this hill is. I'm going to move the hill. You can't do that.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to utilize the terrain. So people are like terrain in that they got some advantages to them. You know, this guy's really, really smart at math. Cool. Where am I going to put him? Accounting department. Right? You know, this person's really enjoys conversation with people. Where I'm going to put him? Sales department. Right? So you have terrain and people are terrain. And you can't, look, can you change them a little bit over time? Sure. But they're not going to change 100%. You can make some small, they're not even going to change. You're lucky to get someone to change, 15, 20%. They can change. Important difference. They can change. So if you, Echo Charles, like the classic case is, let's say you hit rock bottom. Yeah. If you hit rock bottom, you can change. You can be like, I'm never taking drugs again. I'm never whatever made you hit rock bottom. You're gambling, you're drinking, whatever the thing was, you can change. But I can't change you, or it's very difficult for me to change you. Let's say you are a micromanager. I can move you a little bit. I can get you to micromanage less. But unless you say, you know what, man, I am a micromanager and I know it's not good, I'm going to change. Then that's different. Then we can make some real progress. That's why one of the key factors of what I try and do when I work with people is not me impose the truth onto them, but show them what they're doing. So they go, you know what, I feel like I'm micromanaging my team. And I go, yeah, that probably feels like that to them. So they see it themselves, then they want to change. So what I ended up talking, I've been talking about this quite a bit lately, is understanding what tendencies people have, right? So that's what we have to do. We have to read the terrain of our people. Is this person a micromanager? Is this person obsessed with details? Does this person not care about details? Because if I'm got a critical part of a project that relies on excruciating detail, I'm not putting Echo Charles in charge of that project, right?
Thanks.
That's not your thing.
Sure.
It's not your detailed thing. If I have something that's going to require a creative solution, then maybe I'm like, hey, I'm going to put Echo on this thing because he's going to have to see the vision and create something that people will feel. Okay, well, that's an Echo Charles thing. So I've got to know and understand what your tendency is. Are you too emotional? And if you're too emotional, I've got to not only assign you into positions where those emotions will be mitigated, but I've also got to think, Echo's about to get some bad news about the project. I need to go down there and make sure that he stays under control. Maybe you're too analytical, right? Where you're walking around like a robot and something's going wrong with the team and they're all upset and you're just like, I don't know what the problem is. Let's move forward, and then you losing connection with your team and that's a problem. Maybe you're too aggressive. Maybe you're not aggressive enough. So we can go through all these different traits. But what's important for me as a leader is just like I read the terrain out on the battlefield. Hey, here's some high ground. Here's some low ground. Here's a ravine. I can utilize this for dead space as we approach the target. Like all those things that I'm going to study about the terrain, I have to try and understand that about my people too. So that makes sense, right? You understand? You tracking?
Yep, fully,
You're nodding. What'd you write down over there? You got commentary?
No, you kind of covered it though. After I wrote it down, how you name all these traits, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're like, okay, you don't think of it in terms of like, oh, I hate that they're like that, and they need to change or whatever. It's like you got to kind of work around it or over it, or even utilize it. Really,
yes,
in a lot of ways. So if let's say someone's like a big one is like stubborn, right? Someone's like stubborn.
Yep.
So the wrong way to think about it, and this is the initial thought that when you were talking ahead or whatever, where if they're stubborn, like it's so frustrating when someone's stubborn and they don't want to budge on something, but it doesn't have to be frustrating if you look at it in terms of, hey, it's like a mountain. It's like you're trying to do, I don't know, something. The mountain's in the way. It's like you getting frustrated that there's a mountain there. Bro, that doesn't help you at all. Nope. Bro. You got to focus on what you should do. How do you maneuver kind of thing.
So 2 things on that. There's a famous operation in Vietnam that the SEALs did where they scaled a cliff to get to the target. And the enemy never thought that anyone would ever scale this cliff. So it's exactly what you're saying. Hey, here's this cliff. It seems impassable. Guess what? We're going to utilize it. Yeah. You have someone that's really stubborn. Oh, you have a project that is going to take a hard nose to get through this project and get everything done. Maybe that's the person you assign. And I'll tell you another thing that's interesting. With your kids, and you think, oh, my kid's so stubborn. Okay, how is that a positive quality? Because it is a positive quality. You could say stubborn. You could also use a different word, determined. Those are almost the same words, right? Yeah. Those are almost the same words. Hey, won't give up, keeps going, won't compromise on this. That's determination. Yeah. So how do we, as a parent, as a leader, find the best way to utilize the human terrain and put people in a position where they're going to be successful and they're going to help the mission? Mm-hmm. So that's part 1. Part 2, straight out of Sun Tzu, you got to understand your own tendencies. You got to understand your own terrain. You got to know what you are and who you are in life and as a leader. You got to recognize when you're 16 years old that you fall for girls too quick. You go head over heels, right? Mm-hmm. Or you fall for guys too quick. You got to realize that. You got to say, oh, I get this feeling and I feel like I'm way out of control and I feel like I'm way too in the game and supportive and on board with this with people I get around. You get hyped on them. Yeah. So you got to calculate that. Are you too quick to judge others? Are you too trusting? That's a big one. You just try, hey, that sounds good, right? You can be too trusting. You got to know that. Yeah. And this is really, you can start to recognize these things. Like, I wish somebody would have said this to me when I was 15. Because you can start recognizing this stuff when you're 15. Are you too trusting? Are you not trusting enough? Are you walking around paranoid at everyone? Are you always freaking out? And you're like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to compromise. So you can end up there. Are you risk averse? Or are you reckless? I'm kind of breaking these things into a dichotomy. Yeah. Like you're either or, and some stuff you're cool. Some stuff you're well balanced, which is great. So you're well balanced, and you know that you're pretty good at assessing risk, and that's a good thing to be. Okay, cool. So you can check that one off. You don't have to worry about it too much. And then when it goes from life, and there's a whole bunch of other things we could talk about. Are you careless with your money, or are you too frugal with your money? Some people are so frugal with their money, they die with all this money in the bank. Yep. And the old saying goes, you can't take it with you, right? So what do you why didn't you go and surf for a weekend? Instead, you didn't want to spend that gas money. Yeah. So figure out what your own tendency is, what your own terrain is. And same thing with leadership perspective. Are you a micromanager? Do you tend to be a micromanager? Do you tend to be obsessed with the details? Do you tend to get emotional? Do you tend to get too aggressive? And then what you have to do is you have to take those tendencies that you have And you have to put them into the calculus of your decision making. You have to put that denominator in there somewhere on your formula to say, yeah, I know I'm super hyped about this girl, but I also know that I get super hyped about girls. So before I make this step, I need to put that in the calculus. And here's the thing with all this. You're only going to be able to see it if you're able to detach. You're only going to be able to... Guys that are super, and I keep on bringing up guys that are super hyped on girls. Why? Because in the teams, bro, you get like, the guy, he meets the girl, and it's just game on. Yeah. I mean, he's losing his mind. He's just going crazy about this girl. And, you see it happen with girls too. Those girls that would like go full, what's the movie? Full on, like they're just...
27 dresses.
No. The girl tries to murder the guy.
Oh, freaking fatal
attraction, right? There's that too. So you can get all these things happening.
Yes.
So these are what we want to watch out for. You can't see that when you are in that zone. That is a little excerpt of what we are doing on the Jocko Underground podcast. So if you want to continue to listen, go to jockounderground.com and subscribe. And we're doing this to mitigate our reliance on external platforms so we are not subject to their control. And we're doing it so we can give you more control, more interaction, more direct connections, better communications with us, strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's jockounderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@jockounderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground.